Welcome to No Apology with Emilee and Chris this week of Thanksgiving. So glad that you are joining us today.
It's going to be a good show today. I don't believe that, but I'm going to go with that anyway.
Why do you not believe
I don't
that?
know. I joke. Emilee's got some really good things coming up. We're going to be talking about the Bible Idiots Deep Dive. We're also going to be talking about Kirk Cousins and Megan Rapinoe. Rapinoe. How does she even pronounce her name?
I say Rapinoe,
okay,
but I don't
Rapinoe,
know.
that's fine.
I could be wrong.
And we're going to get some listener responses. So thank you so much for participating. It warms our heart whenever you make a comment or go to on Facebook or go to freshroadmedia.com. There's a place where you can actually click a link and leave a message, and we are very, very excited about that.
Sound off.
But like always, let's start with Emilee's monologue, which we have decided to call Granny Rant. Here's Emilee.
It is that time. As we enter into the Thanksgiving week, I'm kind of realizing we have really kind of lost the art of giving thanks. It's gone by the wayside of things like conversation and etiquette, and sensible fashion. So I started thinking about the original first Thanksgiving, 1621. Think about that. That's like 400 years ago now.
Wow.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but here's the thing. That first gathering that they had was a day that they set aside long before, the day arrived. They didn't just on the spur of the moment think, hey, Tuesday, let's do this. It was like years in the planning and the making. And the incredible thing about that story is that it came on the heels of, number one, the Puritans and the separatists that came over. A lot of them didn't even make the trip over on the boat. A lot of lives were lost there.
What do you mean?
Lives were lost on the boat. When you're crammed into a boat like that for like 3
died
months.
At sea.
Yes,
okay.
died at sea.
I wasn't tracking. Now I am.
Okay, now you got it.
All
okay,
right.
So then they get here, and you got to realize they didn't have homes. They didn't have a source of income. They didn't have food. I mean, they're just, boom, plopped in the middle of wilderness here. And so the first few years were really, really difficult, and they lost a lot of numbers. More passed away than actually survived those first year or two.
Can you imagine putting that on your church platform? Over half of us are still alive. Come and join us. All right, keep going.
So they had overcome all these obstacles. They had had some incredibly harsh winters when they first got here. And I did not know this, but they were now going through a year of drought. I didn't realize that in 1621. They were going through a year of drought, but they were bringing in their very first harvest, and they were very thankful. They had overcome the obstacles, the cultural and the language obstacles with the Native Americans, and they set aside this day for repentance and thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's incredible to me. There were about 53 Europeans or pilgrims, and there were like 90 Native Americans, and they all got together and they ate and they feasted. I don't see us doing that anymore. I mean, I think we as a culture have become a people where we will give thanks when things happen that we really like and are comfortable. When we're prosperous, when good things happen. But I don't think we are as prepared as generations of the past to simply give thanks even in the midst of whatever difficulties we're going through. And I believe it's because we've forgotten basically 3 things. First, we've forgotten to see what is truly good. And not everything that's good feels good. It can sometimes feel hard.
Defend
that
a little more.
But it's still good. Well, in the Bible where it says no discipline feels good at the time, but it's producing character. It's producing endurance and perseverance. So it's producing good things. So it's good, even though it doesn't feel good at the time. Second thing I think we've forgotten about is that it's really hard for people to see things outside of self.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We're just looking at how do I feel? How does it impact me, myself, and I? That's the important thing. And we're not thinking necessarily about the people around us, nor people in future generations to come. We're just concerned with the here and the now and the self. The third thing I think that we have forgotten, well, I know that we have forgotten whom all these good things come from and whom we owe all of our thanks and praise. So today I'm hoping as we kind of move through the show, we can kind of get some of that back, get some perspective, because it really reminds me of real quick story that Johnny Erickson Tata told. It's not really a story, but just a comment that she wakes up and she is thankful in all things. She's not thankful for all things, but the Bible says be thankful in all things. So she says, I am thankful in my wheelchair. Why am I thankful in my wheelchair? In this condition where she's in pain every day.
Yeah.
But she said, I'm thankful for it because every day that struggle drives me back to the feet of Jesus. And that is her reward. And
she said that actually to us in an interview, which we were filming, and much of that made the final cut of the movie Bible Idiots.
Yeah.
If you've never seen the movie Bible Idiots, just send an email to Emilee@freshroadmedia.com, Emilee @freshroadmedia.com. I'll send you the director's link.
Yeah.
There
you go.
Or have Emilee send it to you.
Yeah. It's really an incredible story. But I think that her statement there is very in line with that vision of those very first pilgrim who set aside that day because
it's being thankful in all things, not for all things.
In that moment, just because there are things to be thankful for.
Well, our God is so immense that there's going to be thankful things anytime.
Right.
Anytime.
Just the fact that we have a God, we can be thankful.
And there are some really fallen, awful, evil things that the human being has to endure.
Yeah.
And in that, even we can see the light of Jesus Christ.
You told You told a story, Chris, in your sermon that was really, really good. And when you told it, there was like an audible when you got to the to the last line that was really supposed to teach people.
The Clark family from Scotland. I almost said Scottsdale.
Yeah.
From Scotland, who had scrimped and saved, and they really wanted a new life, them and their 9 children. And their son got bit by a dog. No big deal. Got stitched up, but they were worried it might have been a rabies dog because it was a stray dog. Yeah. So they got quarantined for 2 weeks, and they missed the ship that they had already purchased tickets on. And that ship was the Titanic.
Yeah, they were headed to America, a new life.
Yep.
They had put all their hopes and dreams into this.
Yeah.
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 And
just life turns on a dime, and God is the holder of our future. And so we can trust him with everything.
Yeah. So go to Bible Idiots or go to freshroadmedia.com and click on the Bible Idiots podcast, and you can hear the rest of the story.
That's part of David OFW number 8.
Yeah.
And OFW is obedience, faith, and worship.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do, worship and faith, or faith and worship leads to obedience. But the acronyms, OFW is the only one that I could find that worked that didn't have an ulterior meaning that somebody could misinterpret if you follow my train of thought. Because that letter F usually stands for a word that I didn't want part of my sermon series. Anywho, so it's faith and worship leads to obedience, and David modeled that for us through a very difficult life. Everybody thinks that David had this, he's anointed and he killed Goliath, and
everybody loves him.
Oh, he had a little bit of a squabble with Saul, but other than that, he reigned for 40 years, and son of David is Jesus. But when you stop and really look at what David went through, it was full of challenges and things that you normally wouldn't, you being the proverbial you, wouldn't be really that thankful for. So that's the Bible Idiots podcast for this week, which is the teaching that I've been blessed to be able to do. Right now we're doing all of my Harlan, Iowa stuff, but I have stuff that's predating Harlan that we may want to get into. I don't know. All I know is that for the Bible Idiots Deep Dive today, I want you to do something. I'm going to tell you what it is that I want you to do, and Emilee and I can testify that we've done this, and it is read a chapter every day for a week. And now you're like, well, what chapter and how many? No, it's one chapter. Pick one chapter and read it every single day, Monday through Friday. And that's a week in our world, your work week or whatever. You can go Monday through Sunday. Don't email me saying I'm a 7-day person. Okay, it's all good. But here's the point. I started doing Colossians chapter 1, and I read it again this morning. I started a little bit last week. I'm not, Monday through Friday is the ideal, but sometimes you get off track. Anywho, Read it for the third time out of 4 days this morning. And again, it just popped off the page as to just the incredible supremacy of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in verse 15 of chapter 1 of Colossians, it says, Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before anything was created and is supreme over all creation. For through him, God created everything in the heavenly realms and on earth. He made the things we see and the things we can't see, such as thrones, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities in the unseen world. Everything was created through him and for him. He existed before anything else, and he holds all creation together. Look, I can keep reading, and it's just so incredible. The point is that I read that every day, 3 out of the last 4 days, and yet this morning, the supremacy of Christ popped off the page.
Yeah.
Why is that? Well, because God's word can't be exhausted. And so many times we want to, and there's much more in chapter 1 and 2, about how we want to create this, our own God. We want God to be on our terms.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how it goes. We come to him on his terms, and it's so much better that way. But if you want to strengthen yourself headed towards Thanksgiving, the holidays, and the new year, write God's word on your heart. And one of the best ways we have found to write God's word on your heart is to take one chapter, Romans chapter 8, just to give you, Colossians chapter 3, Colossians chapter 1, Colossians chapter 2. Titus chapter 3. I mean, I can just keep going.
Yeah.
1 Timothy chapter 1.
Or Philemon.
Just
read Philemon.
That's
only one chapter.
Just take that one chapter every day, Monday through Friday. And I'm telling you, if you're not amazed on Thursday and Friday and the power of God's word, I don't know what I'll do.
Yeah, because
I was
God's
going to say I'll
word-
do something, but I'm not going to really do it. So I'd be like, I'll buy you a steak dinner or whatever, whatever I put on the end.
Yeah.
Anywho.
But yeah, God's word is alive. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And so there is life in his word. And so we need to be in it. We need to just absorb it because it truly is life-giving. So we're talking about just giving thanks, even in the midst of difficulties. And a story came up this week that I found, and it was written by Jacob Kersey, and it's from the Washington Stand, and it was just brilliant. It was very short, very sweet.
What's the topic?
But what it did was not that long ago, about 3 weeks ago, Kirk Cousins had a season-ending injury.
Achilles.
Yeah, and it was just, I remember you walking in the bedroom and you telling me that. And at that time, you didn't even know for sure what it was. You just knew that he had been taken off the field. Anyway, this Jacob Kersey wrote a really good article, which was he contrasted the response of Megan Rapinoe, because she got a severe injury in her final game, like 3 minutes into the game. She got injured. She gets taken off the field as well. And just the polar opposite responses that these two athletes had to their difficult situation. It was stark.
Ever since I boycotted Subway because they made Megan Rapinoe a spokesperson, that's how much I dislike her. I didn't read the story. I don't know. You got to educate me. What happened to her?
All right. Well,
because anytime I see her, I ignore it.
I don't know a lot of the specifics, but it was in the headlines that she was going into her final game of her career, and about 3 minutes in, she gets this injury that takes her out. She's done. She's not going to play anymore. That's how she ended her career.
I feel bad for any athlete that happens to.
Yeah, but now as she's, talking to people and so on afterwards, one of the things that she said was, and this is a quote, she says, I mean, I don't deserve this. I'll tell you that much. If there was a God, this is proof that there isn't.
Really?
Okay, so her injury and this terrible thing, really cemented her in her view that there is no God, especially if something bad happens to you. She wasn't able to, in that, see the blessing of her career. She wasn't in the midst of that able to see the blessing of the fact that she makes millions upon millions of dollars playing soccer for the U.S. women's team. So at the same time, she's kneeling during the anthem. She can't find the blessing in that at all. She's also demanding that women be paid, women that play soccer be paid the same as men that play soccer. She's also demanding that police be defunded. So it's like this short little time span that I've really been aware of her has really been marked by a lot of malcontent. You know what I mean? Not a lot of joy, there's no Thanksgiving in really anything.
You gave me a warning before the show started. You said you cannot go rage against the machine about Megan Rapinoe because you've heard me talk to nobody in the living room when she's been on the. This woman is a portrait. If you study her life by the way, Megan does have a God in her life, and it's Megan, and that's the biggest problem that she has.
I think that's true.
And she is the most off-putting human being that I've ever seen in the public space.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Let's
what else did you learn
that.
about Megan, Emilee?
That's all you really need to know. But we'll contrast this now with fast forward. Kirk Cousins about 3 weeks ago gets this season ending injury. And how does he respond to that? First of all, as he's going off the field, as they're like carting him off the field, he's cheering his teammates on. Like, keep going. You can do this. It doesn't revolve around me. And then talking to him later, Chris, you actually heard more of an actual interview with him than what I did.
Yeah, he addressed the media this past week.
Yeah, and he was just full of gratitude and thanks to God for everything. So tell us a little bit about that. What are some of the things that he said?
And again, just for fairness, okay, before Megan Rapinoe became famous and got all these endorsements, she was brought to our attention during the Colin Kaepernick kneeling situation, and that's when she first showed her off-putting colors. Kirk Cousins was on the Chris and Emilee show pretty much every Tuesday for 2 years. Had private dinners with him. I got a video of him and I playing paper football, and it's a week before the draft, and I almost put his eye out. It goes right past his left eye. I mean, that would have been like a $250 million shot right there, the way it turned out. Anyway, so we know Kirk, and I know his dad. I mean, I know the family. I mean, this is a brother in the Lord who we've just had a chance to watch become an NFL player.
Right.
So there is bias on both sides of this conversation for me. I'm just letting everybody know.
Okay.
But Kirk did say when he addressed the media, he said, in my prayer time, sometimes I've been shaking my fist at God.
Yes.
He goes, it's not, but God's reminded me that I'm to steward whatever comes into my life. And right now I'm to steward this injury. Before I was to steward being a quarterback. In all of what he does with his success is turned around and brought back to God focused. For example, in the NFL draft back, 11 years ago when he was drafted, we thought he was going to go in the second round, maybe the third. And when I was talking to him, the talk was Buffalo, possibly the Raiders, and there was an outside chance maybe the Packers, which, praise the Lord, that didn't happen. As a Vikings fan, there's nothing worse.
I'm wearing
than
my Minnesota Wild jersey today.
Yes, good job.
We're glad he did not go to the Packers.
Yeah, glad he didn't. So Washington wasn't even on the radar with Shanahan. And then the number 2 overall pick that year was Robert Griffin III. So he's their franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. And then they draft Kirk in the 4th round to be his backup. Kirk did not want to be a backup quarterback. He wanted a chance to play like everybody. Well, he was the 8th quarterback drafted. And the day of the draft, his dad did a devotion. And he shared this story on our show. And it's one of the most touching things I've ever heard. Was somebody, you want to see somebody make lemonade out of lemons. They're talking about the fact that he's the 8th quarterback drafted, but David was also the 8th one that Samuel looked over before he anointed him.
Yeah.
Where are all the quarterbacks that were drafted with Kirk Cousins? Where is Brock Osweiler? Where is Robert Griffin III? Even Andrew Luck isn't even around anymore.
Interesting.
So, he's had a wonderful career. And so in the middle of all that, he is talking about how God's goodness is still in the middle of this injury, how he's going to try to help Josh Dobbs, the new quarterback, how he's going to try to be around his teammates, how he's going to try to steward his injury for the glory of God just in his rehab. And this is a spiritual maturity that I hope people don't miss.
Right.
And he's suffered a lot as a professional athlete, he can't win on prime time, and he's never won a playoff game. Then he wins on prime time, then he wins a playoff game, and then they come up with something else. Well, the Netflix, after 10 years of constantly being kicked around, like he's even said, if I walk on water, my critics would say it's because I can't swim.
He knows.
They'll
always be there.
Then the Netflix special comes out, and he's shown as the guy he really is, the guy you and I know. And by the way, you remember we'd pray for who Kirk would marry. Well, he married a girl named Julie. We've never met her, but obviously it's a wonderful thing. And the Netflix special comes out, and now he's very popular. And he's good friends with Patrick Mahomes, and all of a sudden he's playing lights out. He was on pace for an MVP season, playing the best football of his career on a team that, with him at the helm, I think we could have done a lot of damage. It didn't start out that great. Justin Jefferson got hurt. Now I'm turning into sports broadcast.
I know. I was just going to say, I feel like I'm listening to ESPN.
He went 24 of 26 for 325 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
But what I really wanted to, because Chris, you've had these more personal conversations with Kirk Cousins about his faith, about his family, about his life. When he first went off to college, how he spiritually prepared himself to do that. We had these deeper conversations with him, not just about football. And so when he did get injured, Chris, what really in his response, and there's been, he's talked a little bit and we've watched him go through this over the last, several weeks. What stands out to you that you're seeing right now in the life of Kirk Cousins, and how does that contrast with, other responses like that of Megan Rapinoe?
Well, one of the big things with Kirk Cousins is his contract with Minnesota is up this year, and he's changed the way a lot of players get paid, because he would say, all right, everything's going to be guaranteed, and guaranteed money in the NFL is not common. And so his contract's up. They're letting him play out his contract this year. So he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So many people feel like he might have taken his last snap as a Viking.
As a Viking.
And he wants to retire as a Viking if he can, but he's also willing to go to another team. He wanted to be a one franchise quarterback with Washington. That didn't work out. Just when you're going into the draft, I just want to get one team and be there my whole career and be done. Well, everything's changed.
It's like looking for a wife.
Yeah, it kind of is. And so now he understands that he might be brought back on the Vikings. He might not. It depends on how the season plays out. But watching Josh Dobbs come in, who's also a believer, by the way, and he's been a viral sensation. Now, last night, on Sunday Night Football, we lost to the Broncos 21-20, and Josh looked a little shaky, kind of like, okay, I can see why he's been a backup quarterback for 5 years. He's been in the NFL. Anyway, he's got a lot of skills, but Kirk is pulling for him. He's pulling for his teammates. It's not about him. And so he has said that he is going to be ready for whatever comes, and he's just trying to take it one day at a time. And I just really wish people would do a deep dive on Kirk Cousins, and you would see an example that somebody who's been risen up, who still has the humility of the Lord. And the Lord is number one in his life, and you can just tell.
Right, and this is not a new thing, because let's go back to when he was playing college football. He was playing against Notre Dame, and he threw an interception, lost the game. And he was crushed. Of course, we heard, as college football fans, we heard you'll never make it. You're just such a loser, Kirk Cousins. But when he had that interception, you can imagine how hard that is to deal with that, knowing that you yourself caused the loss of this game. He said that he remembers thinking to the Lord, "Thank you that my life is not built on football. Thank you that my life is built on you, because if I built my entire life on football, my life would be over right now. Like I'm not going anywhere. I just made this horrible mistake." But then he continues, telling the story about going through this interception that he threw and Notre Dame won. And he said, "I thought, thank you for the gospel, and thank you, God, that my life is not built on football. My life is built on you, and you are not changing.
Right.
And I have to trust him that he is going to make good out of it, and he is not going to waste it. So he saw that bad thing, that hard thing, that tough thing, and he realized God's going to do something good with it. I can't see it. I don't know what it is, but I can trust him that he's going to. That's the difference between like Megan Rapinoe. She cannot see that. And Chris, you were talking about being the God of both the seen and the unseen. And when you're walking with the Lord Jesus Christ, even though you can't see it, you know that you can trust God. And I thought that article that was written was just I wish I would have thought of it, because both things were very high profile. Everybody was talking about it in the world of sports, but it didn't prick me. It didn't stand out to me until I saw this article, and it was like, what a demonstration of the life that God pours into his people. We're all going through the same thing.
Yeah.
We're all living in the same world. But our responses to the things of this world, whether they're good or whether they're bad, have very different outcomes depending on whether you are trusting in God or you're trusting in self, or just simply whoever you're trusting and not trusting in God. And so that was really, what a great, I don't know what the word is, just a juxtaposition. What a great analogy. What a great look into human behavior, especially right now during this week of Thanksgiving.
Well, but and again, my son is a diehard Viking fan, and he listens to Vikings podcasts on his way to work. And he
loves the Vikings.
He's been into it, and he always tells me whenever Kirk Cousins comes up, because he in the playoff game he checked down on fourth down. That was his only play, and I defend Kirk all the time, online, everywhere. I always have. And so he says, you can't look at the Vikings without your Kirk Cousins rose-colored glasses on. And I say, yeah, that's how it's always going to be. It's always going to be that way. And it has nothing to do with sports.
Right.
It has to do with one of the best books I've ever read. That is what's called a trade book, which is what that means. It's a Christian book that's not a fiction, or it's a trade book. I don't know. Do you know what I mean when I say trade book?
Yes.
And it's about living the Christian life. And Kirk Cousins turned me on to it, and it's called In a Pit with the Lion on a Snowy Day by Mark Batterson.
Yep.
That really, I've gone back and read that book a couple different times in my journey over the last 11 or 12 years. And then the big thing for me, and you know this to be true, I judge people based on how they treat their wives. I look at all men through that lens, and it's not conscious. It's totally subconscious. It's just something I always do. And for over a year, you and I were praying for Kirk to find the right gal, because he's the captain of the Michigan State Spartans in his senior year. He's starting to share his faith. We got to be around him sharing his faith a little bit. But can you imagine how many young ladies were throwing themselves at him? And he held himself with integrity, and he found the right one. And her name is Julie. We've never gotten to meet her, because after the draft, after Kirk went to the NFL,
he's kind of busy.
Well, yeah, he's kind of busy. I think I've spoken to him 3 times since he got drafted. But the guy who I introduced him to, his name's Jeff, and Jeff now runs the Kirk. Well, he's one of the managers or directors or president. I don't even know what his title is. He's one of the guys who helps run the Kirk Cousins Foundation. And I introduced those two, and him and I have stayed connected a lot. And like during the season, Kirk doesn't want to talk to people like me. After the season,
very few of us really do.
Season, I don't even think he wants to talk to people like me. But anyway, so I'm just proud of Kirk and Julie and the way they want to live for the Lord. They want to raise their family. They want to be normal people. And he is giving an example to everybody from every walk of life what it means for Christ to take over your life and for you to live in victory now and through eternity. It's awesome.
So guess what he's doing now that, his leg is in a boot? And then we're coming up on the holiday. He's actually out helping to serve meals with his teammates at the Salvation Army. And he told the Star Tribune, Minneapolis paper, that him and his son, so he's bringing his son along and teaching his son and raising his son up in the way that he should go too. He said him and his son both have just learned more deeply even that it is truly more happy making to give than to receive. So
Yeah, and the Kirk Cousins Foundation, they just do so much amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just
There's a great witness there, great example to look to, and when you see that, then it helps me too, like the difficult things that we're going through.
Yeah.
Don't be discouraged.
I've never seen Kirk Cousins throw a touchdown pass right and come off the couch and just cheer and just be happy. But that doesn't even come close to the level of joy that I get when I see him serving Jesus the way he does.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it hasn't changed even from back in growing up in high school and then going off into college. He's still the same guy.
All right,
talk about never changing. You know what I mean? He serves a God that's never changing, and you know what that does for us? It helps us to not change too, and to stay in on that path that God has set us on. All right. So last week, we're going to move on here. We posed the question to you, what seemingly ordinary thing about the holidays, particularly Thanksgiving, makes the holidays really, really special to you? And we asked you to go to the website, freshroadmedia.com, click on Sound Off, and send us your responses. And you did. So thank you. And I want to share a few of those as we go through the show. Chris, did you get to see any of those?
One of them. I mean, I saw one that came through an email.
Yeah. And well, then when we got some responses too on our Facebook pages as well. So let's go through some of them.
I was busy.
First, I bet Kirk Cousins wouldn't say that.
I know.
I bet if Kirk was co-hosting for me, he'd be like, "Yes, Emilee, I looked deeply into what others were doing and saying, I've memorized it."
Let's come out with WWKCD bracelets. What would Kirk Cousins do?
Let's not. All right. So we heard from Dave, and I don't know where Dave is from, but he said, this is one of his comments, the ordinary thing that makes the holidays really the holidays. He says, "My dad's brother, Uncle Brooks, is the king of dad jokes." I know a few of those guys. Anyway, he goes on to say he makes every family get together so fun. He talks really loud and tells stories that everyone knows he's exaggerating. Every year the stories get more outrageous, but the family loves hearing. Uncle Brooks, is the life of the party at all our family gatherings, and I hate to think of the day when Brooks is no longer a part of our holiday gatherings. Wow, that's pretty cool. Does every family have an Uncle Brooks? I don't know.
If you can't think of it, you're probably him. Yeah. So there's something about being around family that just brings the filters down, and everybody's just themselves.
Yeah.
And in the Danielson family, that's always kind of a fun thing on one hand, but when we were first married, you were almost afraid to be around my family. You were
there. Yeah. Let's just say you're a very demonstrative family. Yes. You're a very verbal family. And like Uncle Brooks, you talk really loud.
That's right.
But Chris, you had an Uncle Maury that I would hear. I don't know if I don't even remember if I even met Uncle Morris, but
he was an old Norwegian, don't you know? Yeah, and he'd tell these stories where he was going through the pass there, with the car and the rear-wheel drive car, and I was pushing snow with the front bumper there, just pushing snow with the front bumper. That's how much snow we had. And then he would go into his whole. The moral of the story is Maury's a wheelman that you can never comprehend. Okay, he's so far above you in his driving skills, and his It became legend amongst all the cousins.
Yep. You guys talked about his stories long after he was not even around anymore. Yeah. All right. Moving on. We heard from several people online. Jennifer says that family, just family. And isn't that the truth? It doesn't even really matter who shows up, who doesn't, who makes it this year. When you're together with those people that you love, even if you have to do a Zoom long distance thing.
Yeah, well, today's first day of my vacation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hold the Bible study at noon. And I'm doing the show, so it doesn't feel like vacation
who you are.
But we're going to be with all of our kids in the same room for the first time since November of 2019.
Yay.
And it's we've gotten together 2 or 3 times since then, but there's always one missing for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So there's something special when all 4 of my offspring are in the same room, and then my 2 granddaughters are also in the same room. So basically, 6 people that have my bloodline are in the same room. It is different than anything else.
Yeah.
It's special. I don't know. It's a completeness. And I'm just so jacked. I can't wait to wait to see them all.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All of us together. That's the thing, because that doesn't happen very often. So on those times where we're all together, that's exciting. Now
we will have a meltdown. Somebody will have a fight. I know it because it's my kids. But outside of that one incident, whatever that might be, it's going to be wonderful.
Okay. Barb. She also appreciates the family. She says family when all 18 of us are together. Okay. We are not quite to 18, but yeah, that's a lot of people to put under one roof. And so family's just a huge thing. It really is. We can all connect with that, no doubt. We heard from Joe. Joe is from Alabama, and she says, every year we go to my grandma's house. It's a tiny house, and there are like 25 of us. We never know how we are all going to fit in the house and sleep over. But at night, But at night, we all cram into beds, on chairs and couches, and even on the floor. Somehow we all find a place to sleep. And I can't imagine a holiday without being all crammed in at Grandma's house. I like that. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It might not be real comfortable. It might not be real convenient.
Right.
But it's good.
There's a lot of Alabama stories like that. And it's one of the things that we've always talked about.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a tradition in the South. It doesn't matter. People just pile in, and it's their tradition.
You pile in.
Because we built a house in Alabama, and Emilee just felt like it was just not big enough for her family to come. And I'm like, now this person
we're kind of spoiled.
Yeah, this person.
Do I get my own bathroom? Well, you two couples are gonna have to share a bathroom. Oh, fine.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how spoiled we are.
We get that way. This is so subpar. This is subpar.
That's it. Yeah. Oh,
you know that you've jumped the shark when it comes to humility and living, quietly for Jesus. When no matter what restaurant you go to, there's always one flaw you can pick at the whole way home.
Yeah.
And we caught ourselves getting caught up in that. And then we saw a sitcom that pointed that out. And then we stopped doing it. We started counting our blessings instead. And so anyway.
Yeah. Well, we did realize, though, through that whole thing, square footage is important. It might not be as nice of a house, but square footage is important because we didn't even have everybody home that year. Some people couldn't make it. And the kids that were there were like, Mom, this house is kind of small. Anyway,
is that
one more.
Okay.
Edward talked to us
Eddie.
on Facebook.
What's up, Eddie?
He's a man after my own heart. And he said that thing is the stuffing and gravy.
Stuffing and gravy.
Gravy is so good. It's so good. I don't always make it because, number one, it's not that healthy. And number two, it takes a little extra time when everything is done and ready to go. Then you make the gravy. But yeah, that turkey gravy, I don't know. I make as much of it as I can. And it's
Emilee,
the nectar of the gods.
We busted Emilee, and when we busted her doing this, she didn't even care. She didn't stop. She didn't even blink.
I'm not ashamed.
But she had the gravy boat, and she was drinking out of it. And this was like an hour after the meal was over. And we're supposed to be clearing the dishes, and she sneaks away, and all of a sudden, me and my daughter walk in, and there's Emilee standing with the gravy boat, drinking out of it.
Yep.
And she's just like, whatever. I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Well, I've got one of the things about our family coming up after the break. Mike Shaw's here with Right On Way Off coming up in just a minute. This show, No Apology with Emilee and Chris, is unapologetically just bringing you the light of Jesus Christ in a talk show format. We used to call it Laugh Louder, Dig Deeper, and Live Larger, and we are glad you're with us. I will tell you the one thing that means everything to our family more than any other, and I've got a text string to prove it, and I'm going to bring it up around the corner.
All right.
You're listening to No Apology with Emilee and Chris on listener-supported FreshRoadMedia.com.
Hey, if you enjoy listening to No Apology with Emilee and Chris, if you get any encouragement from it, please consider standing with us financially. Go to FreshRoadMedia.com and consider giving a wonderful gift today. It is appreciated. You're listening to No Apology with Emilee and Chris. Thank you so much for listening to this Thanksgiving edition of the show.
Yeah,
Been a good day so far.
Well, so far, only a few technical problems. As you can see, my microphone, those of you watching on Rumble or YouTube can see that my microphone is on the other side because I had a problem with it. So I had to use the guest microphone, which Mike Shaw's on now. So he needs to be on there. And we're bringing Mike in right now. Mike, how you doing?
Thanks for giving me my microphone back.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
You're going to need that.
It's like, mic check. No, I'm fine.
Yeah. Somehow.
Mike has a mic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Somehow you're a little darker on camera, like we don't have enough light on you or something. We'll get past it. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. You're exactly right about that. I don't even care.
So the one thing in our family that has come up that has to be the big holiday to do is a product called Lefsa, which Emilee brought up on the last episode. And I just, Mike, I asked you off air and I'm going to ask you now on air. Yeah. There is a video. It's 12 years old.
Okay.
And it only has like 300 views. And so it wasn't like the old morning show, thousands of views or anything like that. And
right.
It is 12 years old, and it's Emilee and our daughter Hannah making Lefsa.
Okay.
Can we tag that video on to the end of this episode?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. Right. And then I won't have to ask anymore what Lefsa is.
It's poor man.
I could make my own.
It's like poor man's peasant Lefsa because it's made with none of the professional paraphernalia that you need.
Yeah, right up my alley.
In 12 years, she's really gotten more professional at it. I mean, the kids love it.
Yeah.
And so it's 9 minutes and 54-second YouTube at the end of this show to show you how to make Lefsa. We were just starting to, I was just starting to film stuff and edit stuff together long before. But this was a pre-runner to me directing Bible Idiots and Colors of Character and a handful of other short documentaries. But so the question of Lefsa came up in a text string with my kids and my in-law kids. And so there's all of us in here. And Jake said, "Are we making it at Dana's house, or are you bringing it?" They want to know.
Yeah. It's a key part of Thanksgiving, the Lefsa.
And I said, "Well, almost 30 pieces that your mom made this week, and she made the extra large variety.
They're big. They're like, big."
And so my son-in-law Nick, who is always late to the table, he says, "If I act fast, I'll get crumbs instead of nothing this time."
He got no Lefsa one year.
Well, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
I know, it's the Danielson family.
Then
you gotta get where the getting's good.
Then there's 3 or 4 memes of, Nick waiting too long or Nick with Lefsa. Everybody's piling on now. Nick's our son-in-law married to our youngest daughter.
They said left out son.
Yeah, left out son.
And Emilee throws a laugh, ha-ha on a couple of these. Then Emilee weighs in. This is Friday, by the way, of this past week. Okay, number 1 rule for Turkey Day. The Lefsa does not come out before we sit down to eat. It is served with the turkey.
There you go.
Right. So then our oldest daughter, who is without a doubt the most scholastic of all of my children, she uncorks the calculus right away. She says,
"Nice.
If there are 11 of us, if everyone just limits themselves to 2 Lefsas per unit, everyone has their 2, we won't run out. And we can cut the remaining 8 in halves if needed." This is all going down.
Good. She's got the common denominator and everything.
She's Miss Academia.
That's awesome.
Then the subject changed for a minute or two, and then Hannah jumps in, and she's married to Nick, by the way, and she says, "Nick has no room to complain about the Lefsa." That's in all caps.
That's right. See?
When that neighbor lady made cinnamon rolls, I didn't even get one, and Nick ate 5.
Oh, the cinnamon rolls.
And then my daughter says this. She says, "I'm glad we now have Lefsa rules, but no need to feel sorry for Nick." Ha, ha, ha.
He got his fill of cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, and then Nick came back. Nick came back and said, "There's a price to pay when there's no Lefsa left." Besides, those were baked by a traitor. Talking about the cinnamon rolls.
Oh, yeah.
So then the cinnamon rolls now take center stage. Yeah. And my oldest son, he wants to be in on these text strings because he wants to read them, but he's a mechanic.
He gets frustrated.
He's an ASC certified mechanic in Alabama. He says he gets back to his phone at noon, and there's 48 text messages, and it's all from his family, and it's all this nonsense.
I
love it.
Depends on who you are.
Meme.
Yeah, I would look forward to
that.
Yeah, I would look forward to that.
Yeah, and then they go on and on about my son's cat and this other stuff and who's bringing dogs and but anyway, that's Lefsa. And Emilee shows you how to make it now at the end of this episode.
Nice.
And so it's again, keep in mind, when I was directing this, Emilee's wanting to do this cooking thing. I always thought we should have done a Christian cooking show. Just having fun. And so just roll with us. We made it at our kitchen at our home in Michigan, and I thought it was pretty good.
So my prediction is it's fine. Have you seen YouTube? Do you see the stuff that people are putting out there?
Yeah.
It's going to be fine.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
It's going to be great.
Point number one is I don't want to be those people.
Yeah. Well,
but if you're wondering about what all the hubbubaloo is about lefse, this little video will at least kind of help you try it and see if you like it. Because it is, you got to keep in mind, it's a very simple Scandinavian, so it's very subtle in flavor.
But it's really
recipe,
good.
But it's I don't know
just
why.
A weird goodness that you can't describe.
So good. But before you go and you buy the griddle and you buy the turner and you buy all that stuff, you can just make do with what you got and see if it's something.
And that's what the video is making do with what you got. You got all the high-end lefse making stuff after the video.
Yeah, I was not going to let not having a lefse turner stop me from eating lefse.
Yeah.
So
the circular griddle instead. What?
Exactly.
That you make crepes in.
Yeah, because I use just the regular rectangle griddle, so I had to make them smaller, to fit on the griddle. But now that I have the big lefse griddle.
She's got biggins.
So,
going 60 years without even knowing what lefse is.
It's lefse.
Lefse, right. There you go. So now I'm through the text string that you just shared and these stories. I'm like, I'm getting it now. It's like, this is important.
Very important.
I feel like I'm being let in now.
Yes, we will make
to the Midwestern way.
Yes, we will make sure that you get a taste of lefse before the first of the year rolls.
Well,
around.
Emilee, time for you to put your foot on the gas and take us to the next segment. What is it?
Let's do it right on way off.
Right on way
that
off.
Time once again, and we are going to continue with our lefse theme, or not our lefse theme.
Why not?
Our Thanksgiving
We're calling
theme.
it audible.
Once it gets in
our
your head.
Thanksgiving theme, and we're going to look at Thanksgiving eats, Thanksgiving entertainment, and Thanksgiving evening. You guys are I'm going to put some options out there. You're going to tell me what is the best option, and I'll tell you whether you're right or wrong. First, let's look at Thanksgiving eats. We're going to go to Mike this time. First of all, Thanksgiving eats, when it comes to potatoes that we serve, you always have potatoes at Thanksgiving. Mashed potatoes and gravy, au gratin potatoes, or sweet potatoes with marshmallows on top. Which one do you serve?
Oh, that's great. You got them in order for me. Thank you. So those are the top three in order. Mashed potatoes and gravy.
Okay.
Lumpy, please, would be the top preference.
Give them some pizzazz.
The sweet potatoes I've never been a huge fan of, but it's more like dessert, with all the brown sugar.
And then you got the pumpkin pie.
And pumpkin pie is my favorite. Yeah. Although one year, and I hope this isn't an upcoming question, but one year we were done with Thanksgiving and there was half an apple pie left. And I said, I will finish the rest of this apple pie. Ooh. And my mom said, okay, but if you start it, you have to finish it.
Ooh.
And thinking that maybe
I like your mom.
Thinking that maybe she would cure me of this. Well, I finished it. So it was so good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
She thought I need to come up with a new tactic.
Smashed potatoes and gravy,
Smashed
lumpy,
potatoes,
please.
Yeah, that same thing happened to me with cigarettes when I was 14. They said you're gonna sit and smoke this whole pack, and at the end, I'm like, well, I guess I'm addicted now.
I know, right? How did you not see that coming?
Exactly.
So then years later, he had to quit smoking, which he finally did, and thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chris, let's go to you. What do you think? Mashed potatoes and gravy, au gratin potatoes, or sweet potatoes with marshmallows on top? Which one do we serve?
Oh, we serve mashed potatoes and gravy.
Yeah.
Because we don't want rotten potatoes.
I used to call them old rotten potatoes.
Old rotten potatoes.
You have some of those old rotten potatoes.
And I went years without really understanding how good the sweet potato was.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to not eat the sweet potato pie. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I am what I am.
That
was the dumbest joke you've told.
I love it.
You need to go with Uncle Brooks over there.
I've
King of the dad jokes.
I've had more groaners than you care to remember. This one isn't even in the top 10, and you know it.
That was so
good. I don't know what it is. You guys are both right. Mashed potatoes and gravy.
It's the key.
It's the ticket.
By far.
So I never really got the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top. Like I
I think
I
it's
don't
really
know.
cool. It's awesome now
Yeah.
that I've grown into sweet potatoes, but
Yeah.
I didn't eat sweet potatoes till
Even
I
as
was
a
probably 45
kid.
or 50 years old.
Like the marshmallows
Mhm.
were not a temptation for me. I was no, give me the gravy. Anyway,
You
so
know
you
why?
guys, why?
Because you yam what you
I
yam.
know. Growing up, I want to know if either one of you heard of this. Well, actually, Chris, I know you never heard of it.
What?
But when I was growing up, when Mom would make mashed potatoes and gravy, and dinner was over, and we're clearing the table and everything, if you ate all your dinner, you could have dessert. And dessert was a piece of white bread with gravy over the top and maple syrup.
Mm.
So good.
Wow.
Mike Shaw, you ever had that?
No.
Oh, it's
No.
good.
We
Yeah.
were so poor though at one point. This is after I moved out of the house, and we were out of food. So I had butter on one side of the bread and syrup on the other. So I've had syrup sandwiches before.
Syrup sandwiches.
It's kind of
That works.
similar,
All right.
right?
Very good. Yeah. Some of that old, really simple, born out of kind of poverty stuff.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yep.
Anyway,
We would just get handed pixie sticks and told to run around the house. So
That's right.
go ahead. Next
all
question.
right. Thanksgiving and entertainment. That's where we're moving on next.
okay.
What are you watching on Thanksgiving? What is a necessary form of entertainment? Is it the Macy's parade? Is it football? Or is it a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving? Chris, what's the most important?
If those are my three,
Yeah.
I would go with football. But my family has morphed from, I would say, at least 25 years. About 25 years ago. Sega Genesis, Nintendo, all of that. We have to have video games and we have to have video game competitions.
Okay, that's not an
I was
option.
I was on FaceTime with my oldest son last night,
Yeah.
and he's got a collection of over 900 vintage video games. It's like that's his thing.
Kind of nerdy.
So so we're talking about what games. So he's getting over there Tuesday night to my daughter's house, and he's going to have it all set up.
Yeah.
And we will play. We will race. We will.
Does he have a Wii still?
I don't know. That's not his main thing. But
No, I know
he's got
it's
like
not.
5 Xboxes. He just got the new PS5.
Yeah. I love the Wii downhill skiing. See, that would be fun for the holidays. But we're really talking about Thanksgiving entertainment. So
That's
it's gotta
entertainment.
Be like Thanksgiving themed entertainment.
Well, I think he's bringing the very old classic Mario and Duck Hunt.
Right.
And
Oh, there you go.
We can
That
shoot
works.
the ducks.
Ooh,
That's
entertaining.
duck.
No, but football goes
Love
with
that.
Thanksgiving, and it's always the early Lions game and the late Cowboys game, and then for the last 10 years or so, they've added a night game. We have
Oh,
never.
they did? I
for-
didn't even know that.
I know, because we have never really gotten into that late night game unless the Vikings were
Okay.
playing in it, which they did last year against
Yeah.
the Patriots. And
Oh,
so,
okay. Yep,
Anyway.
yep.
Anyway.
All right.
Yep, yep, yep,
All right,
yep.
so Mike Shaw, Macy's Day, how does it? Macy's Thanksgiving Day
Day
Parade.
Huh? Right.
I forgot how to put those words in order.
Cue card.
Football
Mhm.
or a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. What's the most important to watch?
Yeah, well, it's football, of course, and I'll elaborate here in a second. Now, the Macy's parade, I'll dip in and out some years, sometimes.
Uh-huh.
It's particularly entertaining when it's a windy day because you never know if Snoopy's going to
They're
crash
fighting the
into
big
a.
balloon.
Hey, you know,
I
yeah.
remember that year. That was
Yeah.
fun to watch.
It's very entertaining. It's like watching NASCAR for the Rex.
Yeah.
I'm watching
Right.
Macy's for the mayhem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fun. So I don't know if it's going to be windy this year, but if it is, I might watch and see
All
what
right.
happens to those floats.
All right.
And then, but it's football, and so Detroit. Usually, I'm rooting for Detroit.
Yeah.
Depends on who they're playing.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm always rooting against the Cowboys unless they're playing Pittsburgh or Baltimore, probably.
Okay.
And then this year, Thursday night,
Uh-huh.
it's the Seahawks and the 49ers.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
there
They
you
were
go.
advertising that all night.
Right.
last night
And
on
as a
Sunday Night
Seahawks
Football.
fan, not living in the Pacific Northwest
Right,
anymore, I rarely get to see a full game.
Yeah.
And so I'm
That's
really
what you will be
looking
doing
forward to
on
that.
Thanksgiving.
Now, I love the tradition of playing video games. I don't have that tradition, but maybe I'll start it.
Yeah,
So-
and video games can't be a part of this question because I don't know any Thanksgiving themed video games.
I'll take
No.
pictures
Duck
this
Hunt
week
is
and prove it
close.
on next week's show.
But-
That's what's going to go
Well,
down.
the thing
All
about
right.
these traditions is because you do them on Thanksgiving, they
Yeah.
become themed.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
there's that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is you mentioned Charlie Brown
Yes.
Thanksgiving. Who watches that? Is that
I do.
is that good? Is it one?
It's
not.
really
It's not even
good.
the original voices. Is
No,
it?
it's really
Yeah,
not. But
I
just,
struggle
you know,
with-
the
I struggle.
music in the background and
Well,
the visuals
Vince
of those
Guaraldi's awesome.
characters. It's so nostalgic. And
Okay.
that's why I was going to tell you, you're both wrong with football. Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. The parade has fallen off the map for me in recent years just because there's so much
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
it. Like,
wow.
I don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
They're doing weird things on my screen.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
where can you see people lip sync out of tune?
That's right.
You
Is
know?
Megan
Out
the
of
Grand Marshal? Is that the problem? It could happen.
Right?
Hey,
right?
the first time I ever heard Josh Groban sing was on the Macy's Day Parade.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
look, you both know. When I say you both, you and
Yeah.
Dana, you and Dana both know that you're going to have it on in the morning when we're getting ready to when we're making the food.
Right.
It's tradition. It's always on. Now, whether it's CBS or NBC, because they both seem to carry it.
Yeah.
You guys go back and forth. And then by the time 11:30 Central Time rolls around, it's time for the Lions to kick off.
Yeah.
And so
So
that's what we do.
I have a question for you because I don't really watch the football. I mean, it's on and I like it because it's atmosphere and you hear the dun dun dun, the music and stuff like that, and it belongs at Thanksgiving. Do they still do the John Madden turducken thing?
Yeah.
Did that tradition continue on?
I don't know
or
what they
is
do at
that
Fox. I know
now?
they tried to keep going with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have their turkey leg, and so they have, and this is John Madden started it. You have
Yeah.
a turkey, but they've stuck extra legs onto it.
Yep.
So it's
yep.
like a 6-legged turkey.
right.
And
Yeah.
is it a turducken as well? Is there a
Yeah,
duck
yeah,
and
it's
then
like-
a chicken?
Duck
they-
and chicken in it, and
Right.
it's made by a company in Texas.
So they
I mean, they
sti-
literally make them and ship
really?
them out around the
Oh,
country.
okay.
Yeah.
So
It's
the
a real
MVP
thing
of the
now.
game still gets a turkey leg.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. So that's still
All right.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we kind of made our own based off of Dr. Seuss. We made our roast beast where we took a ham
Nice.
and then we skewered, like 6 or 8 turkey legs around it and roasted that. The kids love it.
Yeah, no, but that never stuck as a tradition. I think we've done it 3 times over the last 15 years.
Yeah, just a
but
couple times, but it's fun.
I love when they stick as traditions, and you can't. It's just like when somebody says we're going to have the first annual. No, you're not. You're going to have the inaugural.
The inaugural,
You know,
correct. You are correct, sir.
and how
you
many?
are so easily irritated.
He's right, though. He's right.
I know.
There's no such thing as
You
a first
are
annual.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so when you get to 4th or 5th annual, you've got
Yeah.
something going.
now you
and,
got something.
And
Yeah,
like
momentum.
one of the things that we do at our house at Christmas time is we do a fondue dinner,
Mhm.
and we're almost 40 years in now.
yeah.
Whoa.
38 years of fondue
Whoa.
every
Yeah,
Christmas
that
Eve.
counts
That's
now as
what
a
we do on
tradition,
Christmas
yeah.
Eve.
I'm just
Exactly.
picturing that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's the feast of the year. It passes Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving you never know where you're going to be,
Right.
and you never know who's cooking what. And we're going to our daughter Dana's house. She's in charge of the bird. If they were
Yeah.
coming here for Thanksgiving, Emilee would be in
Right.
charge of the bird. So
Yeah. What I love about the
Anywho.
fondue thing, though, is because you go to all that work to prepare the food. And especially during Thanksgiving, you finally get it all on. You've been up since 4 a.m.
dark 30.
And you sit down and like 20 minutes later, everybody's full, Where with the fondue, you set it all up. There's a lot of prep work that go into it. But when you sit down now, you're there for a couple hours.
Yeah.
To cook your food. So
We'll
we
probably
really
talk
like
about
that
it the more we get-
aspect of it. Yeah.
We'll probably talk about it the more we get to Christmas. But
There you
the
go.
thing about Thanksgiving is the chance to sit around and have conversation with people.
Yes.
But it is a feed bag, and then everybody's going to watch football or play
Yeah.
video games. But the fondue dinner that we had, we would put the kids to bed, and then you and I would do it as a couple.
When they were real young, you couldn't have
Yeah.
hot boiling
And
oil
so
around little kids. Wait till they're
yeah.
older.
About the
Yeah.
time our youngest daughter was 6 or 7, then we brought the kids in and made it a
Mhm.
family tradition. And here's it wasn't necessarily the food. It was the fact that this one thing that they were so excited that they got to be a part
Yeah.
of. And they were part of it every year. And now they do it themselves. If we're not together on Christmas, somebody still does it. Is that the meal takes 2.5 hours. Because you're doing piece by piece. You got bread, you got breadsticks, you've got pasta salad and other
Oil
things.
fondue,
but it's
cheese
oil fondue
chocolate
and
fondue,
chocolate fondue.
2 kinds of oil fondue.
The kids, my 4 kids, on Christmas Eve for the fondue, we grew as a family every year over those 2.5 to 3 hours. And then and keep in mind, when the meal is finally done, that's when we would open presents.
Mhm.
So we didn't have kids saying, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. They literally sat there and just absorbed the family
Yeah.
time. and everybody talked, everybody encouraged. It's just a beautiful, beautiful tradition that I hope people have that in their Thanksgivings and in their Christmases when they get a chance to be around family for such a time as this. That's my hope.
All right, moving on to our last question, Thanksgiving evening. What are you doing on Thanksgiving evening? Do you get an early jump on Black Friday deals? Is it games and leftovers with the family? Or is it sitting on the couch in your stretchy pants and relish the food stupor like a bear stuffed with salmon? What are you
I'm
doing
going with B.
Thanksgiving evening?
B, and that's where the video games come
The
from.
games and the leftovers. You're still eating. You're still shoving it down your gullet.
And I do that. I do that while I'm a bear stuffed with salmon.
Right.
And
when you stand up at Thanksgiving evening, you sound like a grizzly bear.
yeah, if you're over 40 years old and you're not wearing stretchy pants to Thanksgiving, you're not trying.
I know. You are unprepared.
You are
Leave
not doing
the
it right.
jeans
Right.
in the drawer.
Yeah.
Get your stretchy pants.
Yeah.
Mike Shaw, what are you doing on Thanksgiving evening?
Yeah, so it starts in the afternoon, right? It depends on what time you eat, too.
Pre-evening.
So it depends on what time you eat.
Yeah.
I prefer Thanksgiving dinner at like 1 p.m.
Yeah. So do we.
That's when we one or
right.
two. Somewhere
People
in
that
there,
do it at 4 and 5, what are you thinking?
I know.
It's like, oh my gosh, you're
know,
making me
that's a
wait
They're
all
thinking about
day.
getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning, then putting the turkey in is what they're thinking.
Well, that's probably true. So,
Not the 4
right.
4 a.m. thing.
But if you do 1 p.m. and say you're chowing down first, seconds, and thirds till about 2:30ish with a couple different kinds of pie, whatever, then you're on the couch watching the game, falling asleep with the drool.
Yeah.
Right?
See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, after that short nap, in my case, how else? Then you're reloaded and ready to go for fifths and
love
sixths
it.
and sevenths.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that'll be more mashed potatoes and gravy, maybe a little bit more turkey, for sure more pie,
Yeah.
and for sure more Cool Whip or Ready Whip. Cool Whip, by the way, is made of a space age polymer. In case you didn't know.
Yeah, I only do homemade. I only do
yeah.
homemade.
I'm not complaining about it. I'm
Whipped
just
cream.
saying. And then it's more football, and then so that
Would you like some polymer on your pie?
yes,
Pie and polymer.
and so you just rinse and repeat that, and through the evening until
There
you
you
finally crash to a Seahawks victory over the 49ers.
Ooh, there you go. Okay, here's one more question. I didn't even have it on my paper, but I'm throwing it out there.
Oh.
Pumpkin pie with polymer or Emilee's fresh whipped creme for breakfast the day after Thanksgiving. Yay or nay? Mike Shaw, yay or nay? Pumpkin pie for breakfast.
One word answer is yay.
Yeah, all right. Chris?
I say no.
Okay, why?
Because
What a
I don't eat the
buzzkill.
pie that you want, and if I eat it, you will be mad because you want it.
Right.
That's the truth. I always avoid the pumpkin pie the next day because you really want that
You
pumpkin
made
pie.
me sound
nice.
like just this
Shovel it
horrendous
in, gal.
woman in the kitchen,
Cracking the whip.
drinking out of
Well,
the gravy boat,
Yeah,
getting after her husband for eating my pie. Like, what is
No,
your perception of me?
I like pumpkin pie. Here's the thing. I've never been a huge pie guy on Thanksgiving.
yeah.
You know, it's just it just takes up too much
I
space.
don't understand that.
Well,
what did you just say? I can't.
It takes up
compute
too much
that.
space. While you're having pie for breakfast, I would have a little gravy over stuffing with a couple chunks of turkey for breakfast.
Those,
you know,
it's almost
You
like
can't
the
go wrong.
leftovers are better.
it's
You know
a
what I
good
mean?
thing.
After it
Yeah.
comes out of the fridge and you do the scalloped corn and the stuffing and the turkey and the mashed potatoes and you just put gravy over everything
Yeah.
and eat it, it just gets better and better
You
as
can't go
the
wrong.
day or two go by.
Now on Facebook, I'm going to get a memory,
okay.
and it's going to be a picture of pumpkin pie that you cannot see underneath the Ready Whip. And so
Oh.
that's a tradition for me for next day breakfast.
you
and-
like a
and-
little pie with your Ready Whip.
And so
Yeah, a
you're
little bit.
so you're going to avoid the carnivore cult for a couple
I'm
days.
going rogue.
All
You go-
right.
And I'm gonna pack on the pounds, and then I'm gonna get back at it and
Get
lose it
back
all
at it.
again.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a mini yo-yo diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one day a year.
Well, it's
one day a
biblical.
year.
Think about this in the Bible. They're celebrating
Yep.
the thankfulness, all the things you said at the beginning of the show
Yeah,
that resonated.
Yep.
And then they're celebrating with a feast, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, no, I only eat
Yeah.
ribeyes, so I'm not going to celebrate with you.
Yeah, and I think that whole
Yeah.
feasting thing is really a
It
great
is.
thing because I think it really gives us the perspective of what a lavish God is. And he is a God who lavishes mercy on us. He lavishes his love and his forgiveness on us. And so there is a time to be extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? Just careful and studious and,
balanced.
But then there is a time
the
for
pendulum
everything.
swinging between feasting and fasting.
Yeah.
You got to have a balance.
There's a time for both. And that feasting is really just a great reminder that God is good. He lavishes his love on us. And it's not a way to live every single day, obviously, but I just love it. So let this Thanksgiving be a really good Thanksgiving for you. Get a fresh perspective of what it really means to give thanks, and look at those difficult things in life that you might be going through right now and find God's goodness in it. Give him thanks and praise, knowing that he's going to walk through it with you. He does not leave us to our own devices when we turn to him and we ask him for that. So we do have a lot to be thankful for. Chris and Mike, Chris first, any final thoughts before we go?
Just check out the Lefsa video at the end of this. It's 12 years old, and I think that you'll enjoy it. And have a very strong Thanksgiving. Yeah. Don't forget that the Pilgrims, yes, Emilee talked about 1621, but the real deal for America is when Lincoln made the proclamation.
True. Made it formal.
That the fourth Thursday of November would be set aside for repentance and Thanksgiving. We dropped the repentance part as we became more and more modern, but it's still, who are you giving thanks to, And so our Heavenly Father's blessed us incredibly in this nation. We're still free as of this moment. And so just be thankful for that freedom, because out of the freedom of America comes the power to share the gospel, and that is life.
The purpose
to me.
Yep. There you go. I love it. Mike Shaw, what do you think? Any final thoughts?
That's so great. And then just to springboard off of that, I found out now, living in the Midwest, I used to think, people put up their Christmas lights early or their tree early because it's a preference. Here it's a necessity because the cold is coming. So we got to get all this stuff done before
the snow,
before the weather gets bad. And I was driving on the way to the show this morning, and they already have the Christmas decorations up, lining the streets here.
Yep.
And then, of course, after the parade, it's going to be freezing Saturday when they light the tree.
Okay.
And then, so what Chris was talking about, the thankfulness, what we were talking about, the feast, because we're thanking God for his abundance. And then that leads into what? The light of the world.
Absolutely.
He gave his light for us. Jesus was the only one who could pay that price for us. And we're going to celebrate that all the way till the end of the new year. It's the best time of the year.
Absolutely. Both things seen and unseen. He is the creator of all of it. That's why we give him thanks. And I think about, if you were like walking through the wilderness and you were starving and you were thirsty and you just didn't know what you were going to do, and all of a sudden you came upon a stream full of jumping fish and blue water, you would have thankfulness well up inside of you. I don't care who you are. You would be thankful. But the question becomes, who are you thankful to? Our thankfulness to ourselves and to other people, it only goes so far. And so remember, our God, our creator, he is worth all the thanks, all the praise that we could possibly give to him. And let that be your focus once again. 2023 Thanksgiving. And don't forget, tell your friends, tell your family. Check it out if they haven't already. No Apology with with Emilee and Chris. Jesus is Coming Soon with Mike Shaw and Bible Idiots, the teaching platform of Pastor Chris Danielson. It's all found at freshroadmedia.com. Hi, and happy holidays from the Danielson home. Today, Hannah and I are going to be making some lefse, and Hannah's going to help me. We're going to show you how. And most of the time, when we say lefse to someone, they're like, "What?" And so it's lefse, Lefse. It's Scandinavian. It's Hannah's favorite for the holidays. What do you like on it, Hans?
Just butter. Just butter. Okay. Cinnamon, sugar, lutefisk, whatever you like. It is a wonderful delight. So, to make lefse, you only need a few ingredients. It's really easy. Labor intensive, but easy. First of all, we need potatoes, and we're going to mash the potatoes. So if you make extra mashed potatoes for the holidays, that's a really good thing because you can just use those to make lefse. You also need flour. Also, you need some heavy whipping cream. This is not a diet dish. And some butter. And then of course we need to add some flavor, a little bit of salt and a little bit of sugar. Now before you begin, one absolute necessity is you need your favorite Christmas CD. Anyone will work. I prefer Nat King Cole or Michael W. Smith. It helps if it's a gift from your daughter for your birthday. And then last but not least, you're going to need some comfy footwear because you are going to be standing a lot. So get some comfy clothes on, some comfy footwear. And are you ready to start? Let's wash our hands. Great. Okay, so you get your mashed potatoes, all right? And so boil your mashed potatoes, boil them really, really good. We have about 4 cups here. And then what you're going to want to do is rice them or mash them. Like I said, you can use leftover mashed potatoes. And then you need to cool them completely. But before you do, you need to take about a 1/4 cup of butter and you need to put it on the hot mashed or riced potatoes. Let that melt in, get it all stirred up, then throw it in your fridge and let it cool completely. Overnight is really the easiest. All right, we already did that. So here's our riced potatoes and we're going to start adding some ingredients. The first thing we're going to add is, let's start with the cream. And that is a 1/2 cup of, just a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream, okay? Start mixing that in, and then for flavor, you are going to want
some kosher salt.
Yeah, we use kosher salt. Hannah prefers it. Probably about, what is that, Hannah, a tablespoon?
Yeah.
A tablespoon of salt, and then you can add sugar, and I like to add just a little bit of sugar, but you can add as much as you want. If you want your lefse to really taste sweet, add more. I just put like 1 or 2 teaspoons in.
You can always add more after you're done.
You can always add more after you're done. Now she's going to get that all mixed in really good, and then we're going to start adding, I'm going to add a little bit more of this.
Wow, 2 drops, Mom.
Waste not, want not.
Okay.
Okay. And then we're going to very slowly start adding in flour. I like to use unbleached flour. It really is the best. But you just start kind of adding it in little bits at a time, sprinkling it here and there.
About 3 segments.
Yeah, I'm going to let you do the really hard work.
You're welcome.
If your children need help building upper body strength, this is a really good recipe for that. And we got it all mixed together, and now Hannah is kneading it. You don't have to knead it too terribly long, just for a minute or two, but get all that flour and cream and potatoes together, kneading it together for a few minutes. And then what you're going to do, I got to get a bowl here. Oh, we can use this right now. Voila! That's probably good. After you've got it nice and kneaded, you are going to take little small handfuls of it and you're going to really work it into a ball. And you're going to work it pretty good because you want it to all hold together. That's the important part of the whole thing. And then once you've got it into a ball, flatten it out ever so slightly. You don't want any of your edges here to be cracked open. It needs to be nice and smooth. And once you get it just like so, put it in a ball, and we will soon be ready to start throwing them on the griddle. And we're just a step or two away from fabulous lefse for the holidays.
Yay!
That's too big. Okay, we're starting to grill up our lefse, and this is kind of the difficult part. The first thing that you're going to need, obviously, is a rolling pin with a tea towel over a cutting board, and then you need lots of flour. And so keep your rolling area, your rolling surface just full of flour. And take your rolling pin, and you're going to want to get it wet first, and let that water kind of soak into the wood, and then when that's done, then put flour all over your rolling pin. And you need to just keep adding flour. The trick to this whole thing is getting these little patties here to be paper thin as you possibly can. And that takes lots of patience, practice, and flour. So very gently, we're just gonna roll them out. And the word is, I guess, the old Scandinavians, you know what they say? They say you should be able to read a newspaper through your lefse. We have a couple done already. But this rolling out process, you just gotta go slow and roll it out. Halfway through, flip it over and keep rolling it. Now you can make these as big or as little as you want. I'm making them a little bit smaller this time. Usually I make them a little bit larger to actually fill up that whole grill. I think that one's done, Hans.
It's not like brown though.
That's okay.
I think I'm gonna let this side go again.
All right.
Can I not?
No, whatever you think.
Okay.
So here it's rolled out and it's really thin. So thin now that you cannot pick it up. So you need some sort of straight, smooth surface. They actually have sticks that are made specifically for lefse. I'm too cheap to go buy one, so I just use a bamboo spoon. It's flat, just lay it across. Very gently flip this over and just roll the lefse up on your spoon. Then you're going to take it over to the grill and do the exact opposite, just unrolling it.
Kind of.
Kind of like that. Whatever works. Or flip just the very end. Yeah. There you go. Awesome.
I'm a pro.
You are. And then unroll it onto your griddle. You're awesome. That's the first one she's ever done. Yay! Now this one over here. This one over here you can see is getting a little bit, it looks bumpy. And the edges of it are starting to get just ever so slightly brown. That's about the time then that you can flip it. And once it's cooked on one side, you can go ahead and just use a spatula to flip it. The thinner, the better. And we're going to start piling these lefses up here. And we're going to start eating them pretty soon.
Yay.
Yay! I need a knife. Hold on. Hannah likes just butter on hers. I like cinnamon and sugar. Sometimes I like just butter too. You can use it like a wrap and make a sandwich if you want to. But you just take it, and when it's warm, it's just the best. Mm-hmm. The best. Put some butter on there. What do you want on yours, Chris? What do you want on yours, Hannah?
Butter.
Just butter?
Mm-hmm.
And then this one got a little crispy, but you just roll it up. There you go, Hans. Take a break. Try it.
I also think it's weird when, like, I think it'd be weird to have my own cooking show because after, like, the cooking is over, you have to, like, eat your own food and you're like,
My food is great.
It's so good.
I, on the other hand, like a little sweetness, so I'm just going to put butter on mine, a little bit of sugar, maybe that's kind of a lot of bit of sugar, and a little bit of cinnamon. Roll it up. Merry Christmas. It's the best.
Varsågod.
What?
Varsågod.
Varsågod.